Before we jump into the webinar, we thought we can give you a quick overview of Zoho because we see a good number of folks are new users. So this information would be useful. Zoho is a technology company with a long-term vision. We are into the software business for over 25 plus years. So we have apps in all major categories and 90 million users and 12,000 employees. And we have offices in over 15 different countries across the globe. So this is a quick snapshot of the Zoho apps and the Zoho ecosystem. So starting with our CRM, finance, HRMS. So you name any category, there is a Zoho app for you. And our vision is to serve as the operating system for business. So that is what we are trying to achieve with Zoho One, a tightly integrated suite with which you can run your entire business operations. So Zoho Vault is part of Zoho Suite, and it was launched in 2013. So we passed a decade, and we are very happy to cross 10 years of our existence and serve customers and businesses across the globe. So today's session is around passwordless authentication for cloud apps with Zoho Vault. My name is Mauli. I am one of the product experts here, and I also have Christopher along with me. Hi, Christopher.
Hello, Molly. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this session today.
Thank you, Christopher. And we also have Tanveer in the panel. So he takes care of the Q&A panel. So if you have any questions while I and Christopher present the session, Tanveer would be happy to answer them. And yeah, we take turns and answer your questions. First thing first, we are recording this entire session and we will share the recording and also the slide deck with you. So no worries about that question. And you can post your questions using Q&A, and there is also a new option, raise your hands. So just raise your hands using the Zoho meeting. So we can give you audio controls. So you can post your questions, ask your question directly, and we can answer them instantly. This is our agenda for today's session. First, we will see a quick overview of Zoho Vault, followed by passwordless authentication, few use cases, and Q&A. The major problem that we all face today is we have a lot of applications, either be personal or business. An average American user uses over 50 different applications. When it comes to personal and businesses both, we have a lot of these applications, and all these applications are guarded by passwords, and it is humanly impossible to remember a lot of password ourselves, right? So we all tend to take the help of sticky notes, spreadsheets, and text files, browsers, the easy and the lazy methods, right? So we are all humans. So we end up using the same password, like passwords of our pets, passwords of our spouse, birthday, some combination, and we also share it poorly via Microsoft Teams or Zoho Click. Some companies even go ahead, print them, and paste it on the devices. So Zoho Vault is an application that helps businesses to securely store, share, and manage passwords from any time. So apart from passwords, you can also store documents within Zoho Vault, meaning your software licenses, SSH keys, any document that is less than 2 MB, which should be confidential and secure, that can be stored in your Zoho Vault application. There is no limit when it comes to the number of passwords and documents. You can literally store unlimited number of documents and password in your Zoho Vault application. So not just password management. So Zoho Vault also offers you advanced features like multiple levels of password sharing, data breach reports, comprehensive audit trials and reports. So by all this, IT admins can get a clear picture of who accessed which password and when. And the application is built on top of APIs, meaning you can integrate Zoho Vault with all popular applications and also build custom integrations. So for a security app, it is also important to be compliant with laws like GDPR, CCPA, and HIPAA. Zoho Vault readily complies with all these regulations. So we also offer multi-factor authentication and role-based access to give you a secure access. And the app comes bundled with a lot of higher integration or advanced integrations with your help desk system, CM services, and passwordless authentication. So being a security application, you should be interested to know the architecture of the program. So this is the quick snapshot of Zoho Vault security architecture. On your left, you could see the number of ways from where you can access Zoho Vault. You can directly access Vault from your browser or using a browser extension or using any device or mobile applications. So what happens here? When you create an account, you create a master password. And this master password is used to encrypt and decrypt your data. And this master password is not stored anywhere in our servers. So when you access Zoho Vault, you need to enter your master password every single time. And this data gets encrypted on the client side in your browser or mobile device or the extension. And only the encrypted data gets transmitted over HTTPS securely and stored in our servers in USA or Europe or India based on your preference. So by this way, we are able to offer 100% security and privacy. Not just that, we also offer multi-factor authentication. So if you have Zoho Vault, so Zoho OneAuth is Zoho's multi-factor authentication application. So it is free and comes bundled with Zoho Vault as well and Zoho One. So you can use Zoho OneAuth along with Zoho Vault and also for other applications like Twitter, Office 365 or Google. It is completely free. So the application is cross-platform compatible, so meaning you can access it from your desktop or mobile or your iPad or Apple Watch. So for an application like Zoho Vault, it should also be available in the extension, meaning you don't need to enter or access the Zoho Vault web interface every single time. You can just install this extension to any of these popular browsers and do all the password management activities quickly. So Zoho Vault readily offers extension for all browsers like Chrome, Firefox, and Edge. So Ula is Zoho's newly launched browser. So I am presenting the screen from Ula browser. So what is the major USP of Ula? Ula is a privacy-first browser, and it offers you multiple modes for kids, for work, for development, for personal and private, and all that. And it also gives you a ready-made privacy report. So you can see the number of malwares and the ad companies who are interested in my personal data. And Ula is readily blocking all this spying cookies and all that. So just go to ulaa.com. So from here, you would be able to download this particular browser, and Zoho Vault extension can be directly installed to the Ula browser, and from where you can directly access all your applications like Twitter or Facebook or whatever be it. So just go to preferences and see. So by default, Zoho Ula offers two sets of protection. One is the standard mode and another one is the extreme. By default, it blocks all the ads, tracking and analytics. And if you use the extreme one, it also do URL tracking, cookie blocking, and a lot more. So as a privacy focused company, we recommend our users to make use of Ula for your browsing activity. So Zoho Vault readily integrates with all popular Zoho applications wherever there is a need for password sharing. If you have a new project where you need to share passwords with your team members, you can do it directly with Zoho projects and Zoho Vault. And if there is a new ticket that comes to Zoho Desk, and if you want to share password based on the ticket ID, you can do that with this integration. And Zoho Mail, in Zoho Mail, you can directly add Zoho Vault widget, the Zoho Vault extension, and you can quickly access your password from your inbox. With Flow, you can configure no-code workflows, and with OneDrive, you can back up your data to Zoho OneDrive. So not just with Zoho ecosystem, Vault also readily integrates with Google, Office 365, Microsoft Active Directory, OneLogin, Okta, and many more. For cloud data backup, it readily integrates with Dropbox, Box, and all popular applications. So for advanced integrations for enterprises, we have help desk integration and CM integration, meaning you can integrate Zoho Vault with your help desk services. Say, for example, when a new ticket comes to the help desk service, Zoho Vault can automatically grant a password access based on some conditions. So especially for password reset features and a lot more, you can make use of this feature. And for CM integration, Zoho Vault can send all the password related logs to Microsoft Sentinel or SolarWinds Logly or any CM service of your choice. By this way, IT admins can get a holistic picture of their security environment. So don't just take our word. Zoho Vault is also recommended by PC Mag, Cyber News, and all other popular websites. Recently, Zoho Vault is also recognized by GigaOM, one of the major analyst firm from the European Union. It is recognized as a challenger and fast mover in 2023 password management radar. Zoho Vault, most of you would be aware that it's only a password manager, but we understand the world is embracing a passwordless feature. And by this way, in 2018 or in the early 2019, we started to roll out passwordless authentication in Zoho Vault. And today we offer passwordless authentication for 100 plus cloud apps out of the box. And for other application, we have custom integration. So what is passwordless authentication? Let's take the example of Amazon. I enter my email ID and I need to enter my password to get access to Amazon. But what if I say we don't enter our password, we just enter some code or we give biometrics and access Amazon. So that is the passwordless authentication. Most of us would have used this using Windows Hello, a biometric one authentication, or Zoho One Auth if you are a Zoho One customer, or if you are a Zoho Vault user, standalone user, you would be aware of Zoho One Auth. It's a biometric MFA. You just give your Face ID or Touch ID to get access to Zoho applications. If you are a very a regular user, you would have come across this feature, login with Google. So you just create your account with Google and you use this particular account to log in Facebook or Twitter or any other application. Meaning I just create one password and one username and I log in everywhere else with one set of credentials. So that is called SSO. So why do we need passwordless SSO? So even we like it or hate it, passwords are hard to manage, right? With passwordless SSO, you just remember one set of credentials and you can easily log into everywhere else. For employees and IT admins, it gives them complete peace of mind and offers them a great experience. And the audit trails gives you a complete picture of who accessed what account and when. How does passwordless SSO work? So I take a break here. So Christopher will take over the session from here. I will go to the panel for now. Thank you, Christopher. Please take over the session.
Thanks, Molly. All right, so I believe everyone can see my screen now.
Christopher, yeah, go ahead. We can see your screen.
So as Molly stated, basically single sign-on or SSO, it is an authentication and authorization method that allow users to access multiple independent business application with a single set of credentials. So according to my previous statement, if we configure or if we implement Zoho as a single sign-on solution, users can use their existing Zoho account credentials to access rest of the applications that are offered by the organization. So for the SAML single sign-on to work, so we need three different components in the environment. So we have, like numerous single sign-on options in the industry, like NTLM SSO, Kerberos SSO, Shibboleth, OpenID Connect, and SAML. And out of these options, we use the SAML option, which is Security Assertion Markup Language, because this is something that is widely used for web-based SSOs. And for the SAML single sign-on to work, so we require three different components. So the primary components are user, so which basically represents the end user who initiates the single sign-on workflow by accessing an application that requires authentication. And the next one is the identity provider. So identity provider, it is responsible for authenticating the user. So it validates the username and password information provided by the end user during the authentication process, and if the credentials are valid, it creates the SAML assertion, so which is going to be a security token, and it will be in an XML format document that contains the user's identity and other user-related attributes. So in this case, the SAML XML, like assertion will include details like user's identifier ID, and in addition to that, user's email address, their first name, last name, their group membership, etc. And finally, the service provider. Service provider, it is the enterprise application that the user is trying to access. So this service provider, it relies on the SAML assertion provided by the identity provider. So based on the assertion and the attributes provided from the identity provider, the service provider will decide to grant or deny access to users. So now let's see how these three components combined work in a SAML single sign-on flow. So to start with, as an end user, you will be accessing the, the enterprise application. For example, let's assume it is a browser. So you try to access an enterprise application, and that request to access the particular enterprise application will go to the service provider, which is the enterprise application. So this discovers and recognizes there is a single sign-on configured in the platform, and it discovers the identity provider, and it redirects the user's service request to the identity provider. So once the identity provider receives the request from the user agent, it will then challenge the user for authentication. So at that time, the credentials provided by the user will be validated by the identity provider. So if the credentials are valid, the identity provider will start creating the SAML assertion, which contains the information related to user, basically the user's identity and user-related attributes. So once the assertion is prepared or it is ready, identity provider will sign the assertion with its certificate, and then the assertion will be forwarded back to, or the user request will be redirected to the service provider. So once the assertion is received by the service provider will first check the signature to confirm the particular assertion is received from the valid or the trusted identity provider. And then it checks for the timestamp. It will make sure that the received assertion is a valid one or it is not expired, basically. So if the assertion is valid, the service provider will extract the user attributes and user identity information, and then it will start creating a session for the end user and provide access to the required resources within the platform. So this is how a general SAML workflow will work. And now when we come into a scenario with Zoho Vault, so here in this case, Zoho Vault will be the identity provider. So first, let's see the IDP initiated sign-in. So in this case, the end user will log into Zoho Vault. And once they log into Zoho Vault, they select an application to access. So the moment they select an application to access, Zoho Vault will immediately create the assertion for the end user. Because the user is already logged into the platform, so no authentication is required once again. So it will immediately start preparing the assertion with the user attribute and user detail, and it will directly send a SAML response to the service provider. And the service provider, once again, validate the assertion by validating the signature to make sure it is from the genuine or the trusted identity provider. And then it checks for the timestamp whether the received assertion is still valid or it is expired. And after the validation, if everything is correct, then the end user will be provided access to the service. So this is how an IDP initiated workflow will work. At the same time, there are chances where user might directly access a service to which the single sign-on is enabled. In this case, user will trigger a logon request on the service provider platform, And the service provider will discover the IDP and redirect the logon request as a SAML request to the identity provider. Then the user will be provided with the authentication challenge if they are not signed into Vault. So the sign-in will be, like the credentials will be validated against the Zoho Vault login. And if the credentials are valid, Zoho Vault will once again create a SAML response that includes the assertion, which comprises user's identity and user-related attributes. Then the service provider, the target application, will create a session and allow the user to access the platform. So this is how the IDP and service provider initiated sign-in flow will work in a SAML environment. So this is an IDP initiated workflow. So once user log into Vault, so they go to the apps section, and from the apps section, they will be able to launch and seamlessly access the target business applications. One thing we need to notice, or the key point here, is the service provider does not do any sort of authentication. So it trusts the authentication performed by the identity provider. So the trust between the identity provider and the service provider is built by establishing the details between both the platforms and by exchanging the digital signatures, which is the certificate or the metadata of the identity provider. So there are some prerequisites for configuring Zoho Vault as an identity provider to any business applications. So the first thing, so we need, like the enterprise edition of Zoho Vault or Zoho One subscription. And next thing, the business application to which you want to support or to which you want to implement single sign-on, the target application must support the SAML 2.0 or above protocol. So these are the two requirements. So now let's see a live demo of setting up a SAML SSO for an application. So the option to set up SAML application is available only for the super admins in Zoho Vault. So under apps, the super admins will have an additional section called manage apps. So we already have predefined templates for 100+ applications. So when you set up the SAML application for your business applications, you can check whether the particular application is available in this list. Or you can create custom application. So in case if the application to which you want to configure single sign-on is not available in our predefined templates, you can create a custom application. So when you set up a custom application, so you can find the informations for configuring the details in the service provider SAML section. So you will get all the necessary information in most of the products. And in case if you do not find these information in their product in the setup page, you can very well refer to the vendor document, or you can reach out to vendor support for these details. In case of Zoho Vault, we require two mandatory parameters. The first one is the assertion consumer service URL and the audience URL. So assertion consumer service URL, it is like a junction or a point where the identity provider will create the assertion for the end user with the user attributes and user identity information. And the information will be redirected or posted in this assertion consumer URL. So this ACS URL or assertion consumer service URL will be provided by the service provider. So once we provide the assertion to the service provider URL, service provider will go and fetch the assertion from this location, and then it extracts the attributes and provide access to end user. So this is one of the mandatory parameters. So we need this certainly for, definitely for configuring the SSO. So either we need to get it from the product configuration or from the vendor's document, or we need to reach out to their support and get this URL. So in this session, we are going to, configure SSO for Dropbox for our easy understanding. So here, like as I said earlier, we need the assertion consumer service URL and the audience URI. So you can get those from the SAML settings of your Dropbox. So here you have SSO sign-in URL. So this is going to be most likely your assertion consumer service URL. So you can copy and configure the detail here, which is already configured in this setup. And you have audience URI, which is also already configured. So once these mandatory parameters are configured, in case if the application to which you want to implement SSO, they require additional attributes for single sign-on to work, or you want to alter and send any of the attribute, like as a priority one, you can add attributes in Vault. So you can send the first name for logon or email address for logon or username for logon. So these informations are available in your Zoho Vault setup. So the first name of the user or the full name of the user, email address of the user, last name, and a username. So all these informations are available with Zoho Identity Provider. So these information you can prioritize and send it to service provider for authentication purpose. So in the next screen, you will get all the information, like from Zoho's side, which you need to configure on the SAML settings of your service provider or the enterprise application. Here we need the sign-in URL. So the sign-in URL will be the login URL. A sign-out URL. The certificate. So as I said earlier, like certificate also plays a vital role in this sign-on workflow. So when the assertion is created by the identity provider, the assertion is signed by the IDP and then sent to the service provider. And a service provider, once they receive the assertion from the end user browser, so they validate the assertion based on the signature. So for validation, we need to provide the public certificate of the identity provider. So based on which the service provider will verify the assertion is received from the trusted identity provider. So in case of Zoho Vault, the certificate is available here. So you can copy the certificate content. So just to make sure the certificate content is aligned with the X509 format, you can just check with an online formatter. So we need to use one with header. The header in the sense, the one that starts with begin certificate and concludes with end certificate line. So when you save the file, also you make sure that you save with a .cer format, which represents a certificate. Finally, upload the new certificate here in the single sign-on. So once everything is configured, you can turn on the single sign-on option and save the settings in the enterprise app. So once the configuration in your service provider is completed, you can go back to Zoho Vault, your identity provider, and then you can start assigning this application to required users. So users, like in case if they want to access any of the application to which single sign-on is enabled, they can directly, like access Vault, and from the My App section of Zoho Vault, they can launch the enterprise app. Similarly, if we revoke, like access to application, and when user try to access the particular app, so they will be, like immediately prevented from accessing the enterprise application, and they will receive a message that the application is not configured to their account, and they will be asked to contact the administrator. So basically, from the SAML application section or the manage app section, you can add an enterprise application, and you can centrally manage access to your business applications from here. So with Zoho Vault being an identity provider in place or a single sign-on solution in place, we see two benefits, from our point of view. So first, from an end user perspective, so this provides, like an improved user experience to users, because end user has to remember only the credentials for Zoho Vault, and they can access rest of the business applications or shared accounts directly from Vault. So this in turn reduces their efforts in managing the passwords, and also it reduces the request to help desk for resetting passwords. And next thing is from an administrator perspective. So you can provide access to, like the enterprise applications or business applications, or you can, like provide access to, credentials directly from Vault. So where, like you will be granting access to necessary applications or portals from one solution, that is Zoho Vault. Also, when someone leave the company, you just need to perform one operation to revoke access to all of the applications. You just need to delete the end user, basically. That will revoke access to all passwords and SAML applications. So in case of onboarding or offboarding, so your single point of like operation will be on Zoho Vault. So all business applications can be assigned through Vault. And in case of shared credentials, everything can be shared through Vault. And if someone leave, you can immediately remove their account from the Vault, which will prevent them from accessing all shared accounts and assigned business applications. Over to you, Molly.
Thank you, Christopher. So I will start sharing my screen and check it forward from there. So most of our users or new evaluators ask this question: can my enterprise become 100% passwordless? So the hard reality is no, because 90% of your login methodology is still with password. But for new applications and other enterprise application that offers SSO, single sign-on, so what we generally suggest is adopt passwordless authentication wherever possible, and still use a password manager to securely share passwords for your enterprise account. So by this way, you can have a two-in-one solution, and for IT admins, it get a clear picture of who access which account and when, be it password-based or passwordless based. A quick snapshot of our annual user conference, Zoholics. So we are doing this conference now across the globe. So the upcoming sessions are happening in Canada, Europe, APAC, and ANZ. So we did one session in USA already. So we usually start our Zoholics starting from USA, followed by other regions. If you are interested, just go to Google, look for Zoholics. So if you are interested in any of these sessions, you can go ahead and register. So you can learn from the Zoho experts directly, and also book one-on-one and get to know the latest features and updates directly from our leadership team. So paid training and certification we have rolled out recently. If you are an enterprise who wants your administrators to be trained and certified professionally, we have introduced our program in Zoho Spark. Go to Google, search for Zoho Spark. You can find Zoho World program inside the Zoho Spark micro portal. So especially for passwordless authentication or any other type of feature, if you want to understand, we have help documentation, how-to videos, and forums where you can post your questions, where other users can share their insights, and our experts can also answer your question. So just go to zoho.com/vault/help. So you can answers for all your questions. Still, if you couldn't find any answer, just write to support@zohovault.com, and we are also available on social media. Tag us on Twitter or LinkedIn. So our how-to videos and webinars are usually published in the Zoho's YouTube channel. So now time for questions. I will stop sharing my screen so can make use of this time to see how we can help you with your questions. I see Tanvi has already done a great job in answering most of the questions. So Christopher, if you want to highlight any of these questions, especially the questions that would be useful for other audience as well.
All right. So to start with, there is a question, from Chris about TOTP key. So I was wondering if you could talk some about using TOTP key, where we're looking into using this for Microsoft Office 365 and Google accounts, but I could not figure it out. So Chris, basically the TOTP key, it is something that you will get, when you try to, configure an MFA. So in this case, if you already have configured MFA to any of your accounts, it is not possible to, get the key, as far as I know, unless the TOTP provider you currently have has that option. So the only way, so far I've seen is to, to get the TOTP key is to reconfigure the MFA for those accounts. So when you do a reconfiguration of the MFA, you will get the option to scan a QR, and you also get an alternate option in case if you don't have an option to scan, or you have problem scanning the QR. If you choose those options, you will get the TOTP key. It's going to be an hexadecimal. So you can, copy those values and put that into Vault. Or if you already have Zoho Vault mobile application installed on your phone, there is also an option available to scan QR right next to the TOTP field in our application. So you can use that. So once the TOTP key is, inputted into Zoho Vault, you will be able to, access the sign-in credentials along with the TOTP code. One moment. All right, so I hope you can see my screen now. So along with the passwords, you have option to configure a TOTP key. So, so this is where we need to supply the TOTP key that we got from the, the third-party application. So you can configure the same in Vault, and you can generate the TOTP codes directly in our product, which will, help you access both the sign-in credential and TOTP code in the product. So I said earlier, we'll not be able to retrieve the TOTP key by default, but in case if you're reconfiguring the TOTP option in the product or the MFA authentication in the target application, you will be able to get the TOTP key from the application, which you can reconfigure and set it up in Zoho Vault once again. So I believe, I'm not sure something is happening in the browser. So yes.
Thank you, Christopher. So rather than posting your questions on the Q&A tab, just raise your hands. We can grant you mic access, so you can participate in live, and we can answer your questions instantly. Just if you wish to raise your questions via audio, just raise your hands. Yeah, thank you. Christopher, you can go ahead with another question because I don't see any raised hand. Yeah.
All right. So there is one another interesting question from Ashish, like asking whether Zoho Vault is a full-blown IDP and not just a password safe. To answer the question, it is partially yes. Zoho Vault has the capability to act as a single sign-on provider, but it doesn't have, like the full-blown IDP environment. Because like Vault is primarily developed and maintained for like password management. In addition to that, we are now bringing in the single sign-on capabilities. So far, we can do single sign-on, but if you check, like the other operations or other options, like the assignment of like an application to a bulk of users, it is like it's not something that we currently have, and moreover, the other things that we can do with like a full-blown IDP, it is not like fully possible with Vault at the moment. However, if you're looking for a full-blown IDP, we do also have like Zoho directory solution, which can do the full-fledged identity and access management operations.
Thank you, Christopher. We have a new user, Chris. He wants to ask a question via audio. I'm granting mic access.
Sure.
Hi, Chris. Go
Afternoon,
ahead.
gentlemen. Very short, quick questions. The first one is, are you going to allow import of metadata from URLs or just upload files?
So is this related to the SSO configuration, or it is just to like store files or something like that?
SSO configuration.
So we do have an option to one moment. We have an option to export the metadata, but so there is an option available to upload metadata from SP, but like not based on URL. We need to upload the file manually in the Vault.
And this may be a better question for Zoho directory, but it seems like the Azure integration app, the enterprise app that is used to do SAML and the directory import is not updated to the latest version of the instructions are way off compared to what they're doing now. The Microsoft has decided their Entra.
All right, so we can certainly forward this as a feedback to the with our directory team, so we can have the content updated in our knowledge base and inside the product as well.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. Christopher, there is one nice question. So from Kim. So Kim wants to know how we can add documents. So if you have a couple of minutes, so you can demo how we can add a document to Zoho Vault.
Sure. So I believe you can see the screen. So we have, the documents can be uploaded to Zoho Vault, like in the password entries. So when you add a password, so we have a category on the top, like you can select file store option in the category. And when you choose file store, you get the option to attach files. So you can store files that are up to 2 MB in size. So you can store small files like SSL certificates, license keys, the SSH keys, or legal documents, blueprints, and images using this option. So not only dedicated file store option, so along with the passwords, you also have the options to attach files. So you can go to additional fields and choose attachment, and this will provide an option to upload a file along with your passwords.
Thank you, Christopher. I think I should store my mark sheets here. Any other questions? So make use of this time. So feel free to post your questions. So we will also highlight a few important questions here. So there's a question, but it's around Zoho CRM. So we will pass on your question to the CRM team. So anything around Vault and security. So feel free to post your questions here. I understand you are part of Zoho One, and yes, certainly we will forward your questions to the CRM team.
So I see, one more question from, a question from user Ted. So it is about, the passwords. So the shared accounts would be role accounts, not necessarily associated with named user. So yes, Ted, your question or your understanding is right. So basically, shared account is something used by multiple users. For example, let's say if an organization has a Twitter handle, so it's going to be one single account which will be used by multiple members in the social media or marketing team. So these sort of accounts which are used by multiple members is called the shared account. So it is not associated to any single or individual users. So this shared account belongs to an enterprise or to the business, and that has to be centrally managed by a product like Vault.
Christopher.
Mm-hmm.
So as I
Yes,
said
Maulik.
before, there are a few questions around your T-shirt. So people are asking for your T-shirt. So
All right.
so I think most questions are answered. Christopher, do you want to continue the Q&A, or we can close the session?
If all the questions are answered, we can certainly conclude this session.
There's a one new question, Christopher. Is it possible to associate the mobile version with an app rather than URL?
So I think we need some more clarity on this question. So
it is from Ted, right?
yeah, it is from Ted. If Ted
So,
can talk to us, so we can have
Ted,
more
I'm
understanding.
giving you mic access. So feel free to elaborate your question so we can answer them instantly. Loading. Loading, I don't know. It takes long. So he has posted here, like Bitwarden recognized the com.android app.
All right. So I understand the question now. So it's basically for mobile application when we do autofill. So the application package URL will be different from the standard URL of the website. So at this moment, we do not have the support for the application package URL. But based on the URL of the application or of the website, we do the autofill or auto log on. And I think we can still provide this in the URL and can do autofill in the application as a standard URL, not as an application URL.
Okay. Thank you, Christopher.
So one moment, Molly. So I said earlier, like it is not possible to configure the application URL, but instead you can reverse the application path or application URL to a standard URL, and then you should be able to do autofill with Vault application. So we have seen this, working for some of our customers, and which we currently provide as a workaround. So we need to reverse the package URL to a standard URL and save it in Zoho Vault URL field.
Okay. I think Ted has confirmed your answer. I'll go ahead and close the session. It's okay, Christopher.
Yeah, sure, Molly. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining this session today with us.
So, thank you everyone for joining the session today. So once we close this session, you would receive a survey, good or bad. Feel free to share your honest feedback. So by this way, we will able to do better sessions. And if you have any topics that you would like to cover, so we can consider those topics and timings as well. So yeah, thank you once again for taking time and joining us. So I say bye along with Christopher and Tanvi. Have a great day.